Hi. My name is Karen O'Connor, and I am a recovering undersinger. So what is casual singing? Well, it's the kind of singing that we tend to just do around the house when we're not really thinking much about how we're using our voices. We get a song in our heads and we just start singing it, but we're not really singing with a lot of energy or full voiced. It's full speed, baby, on this roller coaster. It's not necessarily light and wimpy, and it can be beautiful to listen to. And all will sing out hallelujah. But it's often barely louder than our regular speaking voices, and it doesn't tend to pack much of a punch. Subglottal pressures are low, glottal resistance efforts are low, amplitude is low, and there's often a CT dominance as early as it can be. It's also not necessarily the most efficient way of using the voice, but it's not dangerous unless we suddenly demand a great deal more strength of the vocal muscles than they have. But it's very limiting both artistically and physically. I sang that way for years, decades in fact, thinking that that's how my unique vocal instrument was designed to be used and the sounds that it was designed to make. For me, it's almost as if I got addicted to that prettiness and sweetness and that vocal ease, and it was hard to accept sounds and sensations that deviated from those that had become so familiar and so comfortable to me. So you could probably say that I was a chronic undersinger, and I'm currently in recovery. The temptation to go back to that default casual singing setting is always there. So I have to actively adopt new patterns and use my voice and my entire body in ways that I never ever tried before. I think there are a few things that many chronic undersingers have in common. The first is that they tend to have earlier experiences and associations with their voice use that affect how they come to use their voices today. Often those experiences have taught them that the voice is something that needs to be guarded or is little more than annoying noise that should be muzzled. The second is temperament. Now, I'm not saying that this is true across all individuals, but undersingers are often people who are shy or introverted or self-conscious or socially anxious by nature. They're hardwired to be that way, and so they aren't inclined to impose their noise on anyone. They keep it soft and pretty and don't take vocal risks. For me, I often hear sounds in other singers that I really appreciate, but I don't picture that for myself. And so I'm trying to get out of that, and I'm trying to explore my voice more fully. A third common factor among chronic undersingers is poor training. They haven't been taught how to properly energize their instruments, and in some cases they haven't even been told that they aren't doing so. So they don't know that more should be expected of their voices. A fourth factor is vocal modeling. There are some singers who have been very successful with light, airy sounds. And if aspiring singers admire or appreciate those sounds in their favorite singers, then they might see them as a goal that they should be aiming for. For me, it's actually quite the opposite. I've always gravitated toward male baritone rock voices with some edge to them and male gospel singers. I even went through a period in which I strongly disliked female voices because they were always too sweet and pretty or too shrill. But then there was a huge disconnect between my vocal models and what I believed my own instrument was capable of doing and being. And there were periods in my life in which that discrepancy seemed so huge, and the frustration and discouragement were so unbearable that I wanted to give up on singing altogether. So for those of us in this support group today, what can we do to overcome our addiction to casual singing? For me, it's been a long journey, and I got a later start with this than most, so there are definitely certain habits that have become deeply ingrained in my technique, and I have to resist them daily. That temptation is always there, and it will probably always be there. But slowly, over the past few years, I've started to notice some very subtle shifts in a few areas. A few years ago, I was asked to teach a lesson to a group of teenage actors about how to project and how to stage whisper. And when the teacher asked me the trick to getting the voice to carry well, I, with tongue in cheek, told them to become parents. No, I was not encouraging teenage pregnancy. Now, it really is confession time. I, like most parents, sometimes resort to yelling at my children. I don't start out by yelling, but it does sometimes get to that point. Sometimes it's just yelling to call them into the house for lunch. Growing up, I never raised my voice. I'm the type of person who tends to shut down rather than engage in a verbal battle with someone. So learning to energize my speech and even yell sometimes has been really good for me, both psychologically and vocally. It was an indirect and practical way of learning to use my voice with more energy and intensity. Hey, cut it out! You two separate now! So familiar. So then it was a matter of intentionally transferring that newfound energy and intensity to my singing. And in order to do so, I had to demand more of my voice than I had previously, and also trust that my voice could handle the increased demands. I had to stop coddling my voice. I also had to start embracing this notion of being louder. Now, that didn't mean that I would push and strain and force, but I had to start treating my voice as capable. It wasn't as big or as strong as it could have been, so I had to give it tasks that it could safely handle at that time and increase my expectations of it over time. And I'm still working on this. There were some moments when I found myself calling to my kids across the house or outside, and I would get this incredible intensity in my voice with a lot of resonance, but also with the sense of ease and passivity in the throat. And that's when I started to become convinced that maybe my vocal instrument was capable of more than what I had been demanding of it, and that maybe I could learn to belt after all. But I had to somehow get to that point where I was convinced. So I started taking energized spoken phrases and turning them into energized sung phrases. Yeah, just give me a call later when you're done. Yeah, just give me a call later when you're done. Yeah, just give me a call later when you're done. Yeah, just give me a call later when you're done. So if we start thinking of the vocal phrase as spoken sentence, get out of sweet and pretty singing mode, this may change how we technically approach singing, how we energize our voices. We don't have to yell or belt, and yes, sometimes singing can be soft and pretty in order to express emotion and color the phrase in a certain way. But what we want to avoid is the association of singing with soft and pretty only. Because when we think of singing only in this light, we start making certain choices regarding our voice use that get us stuck in a cycle of under-singing. I had to start giving myself permission to be louder, to make some joyful noise, and let me tell you, sometimes it was noise. It didn't necessarily sound musical, and sometimes it still doesn't. I am still learning and working on my own voice, but it's getting there. I'm seeing progress, so that's good. I also had to get to the point where I started to ask myself, what do I have to lose? I think age may play a bit of a factor for those of us whose temperaments lead us to shy away from loud singing and extreme qualities. As we get older, we tend to start caring less and less about what others think of us. We come to the realization that life is short and there's just no time for holding back. So if you are in the support group with me, welcome. Admitting that you have a problem is the first step toward recovery, to getting better. So I encourage you now to just take off the kid gloves, stop coddling your voice, and stop treating it like it's delicate and fragile. Obviously, you want to make wise decisions about how you use your voice and how you train it, but don't hold back. Give yourself permission to make a joyful noise. Now, I don't mean pushing or straining or forcing with bad technique. That is going to potentially cause injury. I am just talking about taking a step further outside of that comfort zone and exploring further. So I hope this video has been helpful and encouraging. Please click the thumbs up button, subscribe to this channel so that you'll receive notifications the next time I post a video. Thank you so much for tuning in today.